Welcome to Gauge by Test.com, a robust testing platform for companies of all sizes. In this video, we'll help you getting started on creating and editing a basic test in Gauge. To create a basic test, also called a test with built-in questions, you're going to want to navigate to the Test tab under the Manage tab. Then you'll click Add New Test. Give your test a name. Then make sure you have Test with Built-in Questions selected. Then you're going to click Add New Test. Now before we go on, let's run through this section so you get a better sense of how everything is organized. We are currently on the Parameters tab, where any high-level test configuration happens. Next is the Options tab, which is split up into 4 sections. This first one controls pre-test messaging and authentication. This section is options that control how the test behaves while being taken by a user. These are your scoring and results settings, and these are options that control starting and stopping a test and retake options. The Question tab is where you will add and edit your questions. The Access tab is where you will assign users or groups to a test. Under the Proctoring tab, you can set up and configure third-party proctoring services. And finally, the Prerequisite tab allows you to add and manage prerequisites for a test. Okay, let's jump back over to the Question tab and add some to our test. Click Add New Question. Then we're going to choose what type of question we want to enter. We'll choose a multiple choice. Then click Continue. You will immediately notice that you have a handful of options that can be configured for each question, but for now, we're just going to stick with the basics. Questions can be answered into this text field here. Let's paste it in. And now let's scroll down and add some of our answer options. Okay, our answers are in. Now, the value to the right of the question tells the system how to score this question. A value of 0 means it is a wrong answer. Anything above a 0 is the value of a correct answer. In this case, we'll put a 5 in there, making the point value for the question worth 5 points. Then we're going to scroll down and click Create New Question. Great, we've added our first question. From here, we can continue to add more or configure the test settings. So let's take a look at some of our advanced test options that will help you get the most out of Gauge. Like I said before, the options are split into 4 different sections. Before taking impacts the test before the user starts a test. As an example, this option lets you set the test to display default instructions or custom instructions that a test taker will see before the test begins. We're going to leave this blank for now, which means the user will see the default instructions generated by Gauge. Okay, let's explore the options that control what a user sees while taking a test. Here, we can set a maximum or minimum time limit for taking the test. By keeping it set to 0, there is no time limit applied. Question count limits let you set the total number of questions a user will see during a test. You can create any number of questions for each test, but only display a subset of those during a test session. Question randomization is a popular feature, and these advanced settings give you a greater control of how questions will be randomized during a test session. Now let's take a look at some of our scoring options under the Scoring and Results tab. A pretty basic option is setting a passing score for this test. By entering a 0, there is no passing score. You also have a lot of control over how results are displayed to a test taker. By default, scores are displayed immediately after the test is finished, but you can change this so that a test taker sees the score as they go, or not at all. You can also display correct and incorrect answers to the user, or remarks on correct or incorrect answers. You can also set up email notifications to alert administrators the results of the test taken. Gauge also allows you to give a test taker a certificate upon completing a test with a passing grade. Certificates can be displayed on the results page, sent in an email, and more. Let's save our changes and look at a couple more options. In Gauge, you can control whether or not a test taker can stop and resume a test, or force them to restart. And you can limit the number of times a user can take any given test, or windows of time between retaking tests. Let's save our changes one more time. And now that we have at least one question in our test and have configured some of our settings, we're going to activate our test so that it is available to users. Go back up to the Parameters tab and scroll down to Basic Settings. Then look for the checkbox that says Activated and click on it. And now the test can be viewed and taken by your users. And that covers the basics of creating and editing a test in Gauge. Check out our other videos on how to create more advanced tests.